So Vince, let's talk now. The next two position groups. This is Tobias and Jadarian are great individual players, right? But as a group, as groups, these next two is really what the heart and soul of this offensive class is. And we're going to start with the tight end class.
No question.
A for me. I mean, you landed two of the better tight ends in the country, in my opinion. I think Holden Stace. Rivals dropped him to a 3-star, which just further signifies that Rivals is just a garbage rankings organization. I'm sorry. There's nothing about that kid that's a 3-star player. He's got 4-star size. He's got 4-star athleticism. The only thing he doesn't have is production. That's because of the system he runs in. And so you look at Eli Raridan. I mean, if you're someone who likes player comps, he just screams Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah.
Holden Stace to me is a lot like, he's a thicker version of Durham Smythe coming out of high school to me. Athletic, similar body type, 6'4", going to be 250, good athlete, can stretch the field, good hands, can block, he's got blocking potential. I think that's the comp for me. I like this two-man class. Now, neither of these guys is Michael Mayer, right? But not many people are.
I was going to say, that's an awfully high
Eli
bar.
Raridan's a top 100 to 125 player, in my opinion. Holden Stace is a top 150 to 175 type player with a very high ceiling because he's still kind of raw. There's things he's got to work on. But just raw God-given ability, this is an outstanding. It's not as ready-made as like Cole Kmet and Brock Wright were just big and strong enough.
They were ready to go like day one. Yeah.
Right.
They look like
going to need it. Yeah. This group's going to need that year in the weight room. But man, from a pure talent standpoint, this 1-2 punch is this. I mean, you go name me another tight end group and I'll argue with you all night long about Notre Dame's being better. And, and I'll tell you something. Can I say something else? Here's another reason I gave it an A. Because the staff made a big mistake recruiting, and instead of being like, well, we screwed up, they fixed it. Right. And let's take you back to the beginning of this recruiting cycle. They got a commitment from a kid named Jack Nichol. Now, Jack is a nice, solid player, but he's a 3-star. He's a nice, solid player. He's a Georgia
I remember
Tech,
talking about him,
Michigan State kind of kid, nice kid. And the staff realized they rushed it. They went too soon on him. He wasn't the kind of big time player they normally get. And then they found out. Then they kind of discovered Holden Stace, who kind of emerged because they got on Jack when he was a sophomore. It's way too early to take a kid like that. You take a sophomore if he's Cole Kmet or Brock Wright. You don't take a sophomore like Jack. Again, not a knock on Jack. He's a nice football player. I think he signed with Michigan State. That's a nice pickup for them.
That's a perfect position. That's a perfect place for him. I agree with you.
Right.
On that.
And so, but what they did was they realized, okay, Eli Raridan stepped up. He started playing better. Holden Stace started playing better. And all of a sudden you're like, there's just two kids that are just significantly better. And they told Jack, you committed to us. We offered you a scholarship. You committed to us. We're going to honor that spot. But just so you know, we're recruiting 2 more tight ends. And they did it super early. Yeah. So Jack had plenty of time to find another home. That's not as easy a decision as it may seem because you made the initial mistake. You shouldn't punish Jack because you made a mistake. Not his fault.
Yeah, it's not his fault.
Right. So they did it the right way. Jack rightly chose to leave the class, and they ended up with a dynamic. Because if you take Jack Nichol with either one of these two, it's still a pretty good tight end class, but it's not solid. It's not an A class like this was. This to me at a tight end is an A class.
Well, and the fact that Notre Dame has a pretty darn good stable of tight ends right now that they will be joining allows them to mature and get bigger in the weight room and all of those different things. You don't need those guys to come in and be dudes right away. You know what I mean? Because there is you got Kane Barong, obviously you got Michael Mayer.
Yeah, Mayer, you've got Bauman, got Mitchell Evans, Kane Barong. You got 4. And then, who knows if they bring back Jack, George Tackett. I still don't think they have room for that. But yeah, they don't have to play. If they play, it's like Tua did because of all the injuries, Mitchell Evans had to play. I mean, Bauman was hurt, and then Barong got hurt. And it's kind of like they're putting Joe Alt at tight end at one point in time. And so, but Mitchell was better than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah,
well, quite a bit better. I mean, I thought he was going to need several years to get ready to play, and he helped him. Now, again, he was limited in what he could do, but I mean, but he didn't embarrass himself out there.
But it's anticipated. Like I was never expecting him to be a dude. You know what I mean? Right away. I just,
he held his own. He's a tall, skinny kid that played quarterback in high school. He held his own.
Exactly.
Yeah, he held his own. So the point being, you can give these guys time, but just raw talent, Vince. I mean, I don't know if you'd go all the way to A, because like A to me, so the way I look at it is like A is like, that's the kind of group you can win a title with. B to B plus is like, top 10 to 12. C plus is like you're a top 25-ish kind of team, right? That's how I view it.
Okay.
To me, this is the kind of unit you can go win a championship with. Yeah,
I agree with that completely. I was on the fence between an A and an A minus, and that's splitting hairs. That's just splitting hairs.
Yeah, you could say maybe an A should have guys that are more ready to play. I think that would be hey, look,
and that's exactly what
to have an A. I mean,
yeah. But again, they don't need that though. Yeah. And so for what their need was, they nailed it.
If individually, if they just signed one of them, it's not an A for me. It's a B plus, A minus.
Accurate. Yep.
Because neither of them are like 5-star guys.
Sure.
Them together is what, because again, and there's some offenses where I wouldn't be as excited about a 1-2 punch at tight end because they only play one tight end, because Notre Dame does so much. But here's the other reason that I gave him an A, Vince. It's not just like the one way to look at it is just the individual talent. You grade Eli Raridan, you grade Holden Stace. There's your grade. The way that I look at it too is I kind of say, how do these guys look? We're not, it's in a points-based system like Rivals or 247, right? It's about evaluating, did you meet your needs? Well, part of meeting your needs is depth. Part of meeting your needs is impact talent. But then the other part of meeting your needs is, did you sign a kid that fits what you do offensively?
Yeah.
And if you sign 5 centers, if you sign the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 centers in the country in basketball or football, you're not going to have a unit.
Right.
You're going to have
a high grade. You're going to have a high grade, but it's not going to be effective for what you want to do.
And when I look at Eli, I see a guy that's more of an outside in player. What that means is he's going to be in the slot. He's going to be outside. He's going to run vertical stuff. He's fast. He's not a guy that right now I'm necessarily going to have play attached. Holden Stace to me is an inside out player. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. He can do all those kind of things, but he's really good when he's in a wing or attached or blocking on the edge. That's where his potential is going to be.
Right.
He's got a thicker body. He's just a bigger kid. Well, there's a lot you can do with those two guys together, because they both do the same things, but one guy's strength is over here, the other guy's strength is over here. Even though this guy can do that guy can do this, it's their strengths are different things. And that's ultimately the ideal way to put a group together. Is you don't necessarily want cookie cutters. The only place you may want that is running back. Hey, we're going to go with 2 running backs. We don't play a lot of 21 or 20 personnel. So if I'm going to be rotating backs, I want guys that are doing the same thing. I don't have to change my run game. Okay, that's fine. But at a position like tight end in the Notre Dame offense, it's imperative to me that you have complementary players, and these two kids flat out complement each other at a very high level.
Well, and as much as we have banged Notre Dame's offenses in the past for 12 and 13 personnel and things like that, it's not that we're banging the personnel grouping. We were banging what they were doing out of that personnel grouping. So I want to be very clear in that I love tight ends. Tight ends, good tight ends like the ones we're talking about right now are mismatches. And we've said this a million times. Football is about matchups. And if you got a tight end that can match up favorably against a linebacker or favorably against a safety or both, that's a matchup that you love. And so you're going to use that to your advantage. We're not looking for Notre Dame to go 5 wide and, just chuck it all over the place. Like that's not at all what we're looking for. We're just looking for matchups, and tight end is still a matchup that Notre Dame can win on a consistent basis as they keep bringing these guys in. And that's why it's exciting. You're muted.
They got to just use it a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's going to be the key for me.
Yes, no question.
And this is a group that you can use together.
Yeah, they complement each other very well.
For me, there's a debate that was going – not a debate, but a couple comments that said that Raridan's a better athlete than Holden Stace. I would actually disagree with that. I think Raridan is more explosive. I think he's vertical. He is – I think Holden is more of what I define as athletic. I think, and part of this depends on what you define as being an elite athlete. I have seen plenty of elite athletes who aren't fast. And I've seen a lot of fast guys that aren't necessarily elite athletes, because if all you can do is run in a straight line, you're just fast. You're not an elite athlete. And to me, you could be like Torian Folsom was an outstanding athlete. He just was slow.
He just wasn't going to outrun anybody.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Right.
feet and balance and agility and quickness and change of direction, his ability to stop and kind of go back. I mean, that you know, like Reggie Bush was not a freaky like a freaky fast guy. When he ran like a 4.5,
Yeah, he
like
wasn't
that.
super fast. He
Peter
was just
Warwick's another one. Peter Warwick ran
moving
like a
on a
4.55. He's a
Right.
freaky athlete.
Yeah.
And to me, you know, Holden is a really good athlete. He's got great feet, great balance. He's got some quickness. He's got loose hips for a big kid. Eli has a little bit more tightness, you know, hip tightness and those type of things. At least now, it's just kind of like which is why I keep saying the Kyle Rudolph comparison makes a lot of sense. But what Eli is, man, Eli explodes off the ball.
When he's the one that's
and he's got great
basketball
feet too.
team, you know, just dropping monster dunks and like,
oh yeah.
I mean,
but that's right. That's explosiveness.
Explosiveness,
I mean, that's,
exactly right.
Yeah. And that's something else I like about it. Now, that doesn't mean Eli's not athletic. It just means I think Holden is more athletic.
Sure.
Holden is not as fast and explosive as Eli is. That's the difference. But the moral of the story is they're both really good. Really good. So A for me, Vince. What was your final verdict?
I was going to say A-.
A-.
Yeah.
You got to have some conviction, Vince. You've had the whole season to figure out what the grade is.
Yeah, you know, it was an A- for me. And but again, it's A- and A. That's splitting hairs for me. You know what I mean? And so I'm really okay with that. That's not as big of a deal to me. So I'm going to stick with my A-, and I'll be the pessimist of the tight end group. All right.
I forgot I was going to wear my new hat tonight. I completely forgot about it.
Like that. That's fresh.
So, Vince, tight end in the books. Tight end U continued recruiting like tight end U. All right.